Welcome into Tailgate Thursday for week number 3 of the 2025 football season. My name is David Morrison from the Vol Society, here to bring you another exciting edition of Tailgate Thursday, Vol Society's weekend football preview show as we cover the Vols, the SEC, and games across the nation. We begin with our beloved Tennessee Volunteers, ranked number 15 in the country, back home at Neyland Stadium for the second week in a row, taking on the number 6 Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC opener. The college football world will be watching this game Saturday from Shields-Watkins Field at Neyland Stadium. College game day is going to be there. Josh Pate's going to be there. EA Sports is going to be there. Everybody's going to be there. It should be a fun matchup. Tennessee coming off a school record 72 points, defeating ETSU last Saturday. Georgia had a bit of an interesting game with Austin Peay. Had a lot of weather delays, or extended weather delay, and only defeated Austin Peay 28-6. But I don't think that really had to do with their performance per se. I think the weather just threw, just their rhythm off for the most part. But there's not going to be any rhythm thrown off in this game. It's going to be a good old-fashioned SEC Saturday afternoon game. Who's going to take a leap forward in the SEC race? We're going to see two quarterbacks in Gunnar Stockton for Georgia. I would say probably for the most part the nation will get to see him really for the first time. I know he played in the playoff game against in the Sugar Bowl. But now we really get to know who Gunnar Stockton really is. And the same thing for Joey Aguilar. Tennessee already 2-0 with the wins over Syracuse and ETSU, but this is really Joey Aguilar's coming out game right here. So we'll learn a lot about what Joey can do. Should be a fun matchup. It's a very hard game to predict, but should be a lot of fun. The Bulldogs and the Vols, Saturday at 3:30 on ABC. All right. We go across the SEC. We head down to Baton Rouge at Death Valley. Third-ranked LSU welcomes in the Florida Gators. Boy, oh boy, Florida just totally had an embarrassing loss to South Florida. Although South Florida is ranked this week, so can't really punish the Bulls too much. But boy, for Florida, it's just deja vu all over again for Billy Napier and the Gators. Ranked in the top 15 last week and now unranked, and got to go on the road, start your gauntlet of an SEC schedule at one of the worst places you can start your SEC journey this season at Death Valley in Baton Rouge. Meanwhile, for the Tigers of LSU, had kind of a flat performance against Louisiana Tech, but ended up pulling out the win. We'll see what happens in this game. Obviously, LSU is heavy favorites, but can Florida kind of get some mojo back, or is this going to be a long season for the Gators and for LSU trying to go undefeated this season, even though it's going to be tough in their own ways? But should be interesting. The Gators and the Tigers Saturday night. All right, we head to South Bend, Indiana. For Notre Dame and Texas A&M. These two teams met last year to start the season in College Station, won by the Irish. So what will this edition bring? Well, Texas A&M, number 16, as we mentioned, Marcel Reed doing a good job at quarterback. For the Aggies, they get a good run back in Le'Veon Moss. Just a talented team for Mike Enos' group. We're going to obviously learn a lot about them this week. Meanwhile, for Notre Dame, last time we saw the Irish, they lost Sunday night back Labor Day weekend to Miami. What does Marcus Freeman have in store? C.J. Carr is his quarterback. Obviously coming back home after a bye week, even though it was a loss. We'll see how much they've improved from week 1 to now week 3 in this game. But it will be the Aggies and the Irish. Saturday night, 7:30 NBC. All right, a couple of interesting SEC conference games here. We start with Arkansas taking on number 17 Ole Miss, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. For Arkansas, coming off a 2-0 start so far, putting up a lot of points. Taylon Green playing fantastic for the Razorbacks. Victories over Alabama A&M and Arkansas State. They won that game over the Red Wolves last week in Little Rock, and now they head on the road for the first time this season. This is a back-to-back road schedule for Arkansas because they'll have Memphis next week at the Liberty Bowl, but got to focus on Ole Miss. Meanwhile, for the Rebels, 2-0. Already picked up a conference win over Kentucky, so we kind of learned a little bit about Ole Miss. A little bit of a sloppy game with the Cats, but they do pick up a win and are already 1-0 in conference play. Austin Sanders leads the way for the Rebs, but we'll see what happens in this game between the Hogs and the Rebs Saturday night. All right, 7:45 SEC Network. We head to Columbia, South Carolina. 11th ranked South Carolina welcomes in the Vanderbilt Commodores. It's been, I think, 16, 17 years South Carolina has beat Vanderbilt. But obviously, Vanderbilt playing really well right now, 2-0 start. Picked up a come-from-behind win on the road last week against Virginia Tech with Diego Pavia at QB. So can he bring that Pavia magic to one of the most underrated places in college football in William Brice Stadium in Columbia, especially playing at night? We've learned that firsthand a few years ago. Meanwhile, for the Gamecocks, Lenore Sellers leads the way at quarterback for South Carolina. Great defensive for South Carolina, and should be a fun matchup. We'll see what happens between the Doors and the Gamecocks Saturday night on SEC Network. All right, 12 o'clock, Big Ten versus SEC. 19th ranked Alabama hosting the Wisconsin Badgers at Bryant-Denny Stadium. These two teams met last year at Camp Randall, won by the Crimson Tide. We're getting really our first look this season at Wisconsin with Luke Fickell as the head coach, and just kind of a typical Big Ten run-it team. Can they run on this Alabama team? This is also the second Power Four, really non-conference Power Four team Alabama has faced in 3 weeks. Losing at Florida State, you did get the blowout win against Louisiana Monroe. So how are you going to handle Wisconsin? How's Ty Simpson going to improve? Ryan Williams didn't play in the Louisiana Monroe game. I'm expecting him to play in this one, but should be fun to see between the Badgers and the Crimson Tide. All right, let's go across the nation. We got 3 games on tap, 2 college, 1 NFL, and we'll wrap this up. We head to Atlanta at Grantfield at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, as the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets welcomes in the 12th ranked Clemson Tigers. Clemson has really had a very interesting start to this season, already with the loss at home to LSU, and then had a deja vu game with Troy, almost ended the exact same way it did in 2016, with Troy almost pulling off the upset against Clemson. But K Klubnik, Dabo Sweeney and company found a way to get a win, and now on the road for the first time against a Georgia Tech team that is trending up in the ACC. I really like this team with Brett Key as the head coach, Hayes King at quarterback, speedy receivers and backs. So could we see an upset in Atlanta this Saturday? Can Georgia Tech knock off Clemson, or will the Tigers, give another L to Georgia Tech in this annual rivalry? We shall find out between the Tigers and the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech. All right, 4:30 on the CW. And this is now an interesting game. It wasn't 3 weeks ago, but definitely is now. Can South Florida pull off another upset win or a big win on the road? They went to the Swamp, got a win there. Can they go to Hard Rock Stadium and knock off 5th-ranked Miami? Alice Golesh, right now the hottest name in college football as far as future head coach considerations, former Tennessee offensive coordinator. He's got this South Florida team playing very well with wins over Boise State and Florida. Byron Brown is the quarterback for the Bulls. Could they pull it off 3 weeks in a row? We shall see. Meanwhile, for Miami and Carson Beck, fresh off the win against Notre Dame 2 weeks ago. I think they played a cupcake game last week, and now getting ready for an interesting game between the Bulls of South Florida against the Miami Hurricanes. And finally, Sunday afternoon, 4:25 on Fox, a rematch of last year's Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Eagles coming off the win over the Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, the Chiefs already 0-1 with the loss in Brazil to the Los Angeles Chargers. So we shall see what happens in this one. Jalen Hurts going for the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown against, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and VFL Trey Smith on the offensive line. We'll see who wins in this Super Bowl rematch. Do the Chiefs get the revenge, or does the Eagles make it 2 in a row and the Chiefs go to 0-2 in the year? Yikes. But we'll see what happens. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Tailgate Thursday. We hope you enjoy the football action, and we'll catch you right back here next Thursday as we preview some more football games. Until next time, this is David Morrison, as always.